The North Atlantic, off the northwest coast of Scotland. The night of the 15th of December, 1900. The steamer Archtor is bound for Leith, working through heavy weather west of the Isle of Lewis. Somewhere off her beam, there should be a light. It is a new one, first lit barely a year ago, set on a rock so remote that the men who keep it are relieved by boat once a fortnight, when the sea allows. The officers watch for it through the rain and the spray, and it does not come. Where there should be a flash, repeating, dependable, there is only dark water and darker sky. The Archtor notes it in her log and steams on. Her report will take 3 days to reach shore, and for 11 more nights, the light on the Flannan Isles stays out. The disappearance of the Flannan Isles lighthouse keepers is one of the most retold mysteries in British history. In December 1900, 3 men, James Ducat, Thomas Marshall, and Donald MacArthur, vanished from a lighthouse island 20 miles west of the Isle of Lewis in Scotland's Outer Hebrides. No bodies were ever found. No photograph of that December survives, and no film of these men exists. What survives is paper, a log, a report, 2 registers, a poem, and half a century of paperbacks. This is the story of what the record says happened, and of the other stories that grew where the record fell silent. 20 miles west of Lewis, past the last crofts and the last sheltered water, 7 islets stand out of the open Atlantic. On the charts, they are the Flannan Isles. Sailors knew them by an older nickname, the 7 Hunters. No one lived there. Lewis men crossed in summer to graze sheep and take seabirds, and on the largest islet, Eilean Mòr, they kept up a small dry stone chapel dedicated to Saint Flannan, a ruin already ancient when it was first described in print. That description came in 1703 from the travel writer Martin, and what he recorded was a place his informants treated with extraordinary care. Crews bound for the Isles would turn for home if the wind came against them on the way out, taking it as an answer. On landing, they climbed to the plateau, took off their hats, and made a turn sunwise, giving thanks. And while they were on the islands, they would not speak the island's name. The Flannans were only the country. These were working men, sane and practical, harvesting birds and wool from a dangerous place, and this was how the place was approached, on its own terms. 200 years before any lighthouse keeper set foot there, the 7 Hunters were already ground set apart. The 19th century approached differently. Atlantic shipping now ran close by the 7 Rocks, and in 1895 the Northern Lighthouse Board sent builders. The lighthouse that rose on Eilean Mòr was designed by David Allen Stevenson, of the family firm that had been engineering Scotland's lights for a century. Construction took 4 years. Every stone and every gallon of paraffin came up from the sea, over 2 landing stages cut into the cliffs, one facing east, one facing west, so a boat could work whichever side the weather spared. Above the west landing, the rock narrows into a deep gully that ends in a cave. In a heavy sea, water drives into that gully, compresses, and erupts back out with force that is difficult to overstate. The light was first lit on the 7th of December, 1899. It burned, dependable, for 1 year and 1 week. The board staffed the new station with 4 keepers, 3 on the rock at any time, 1 ashore in rotation. The families lived at the shore station at Breescleet, on Lewis. Facing the water, their men were somewhere out beyond. Relief came by tender every 2 weeks, weather permitting. In a Hebridean December, the weather did not often permit. The principal keeper was James Ducat, 44 years old, 22 of them in the lighthouse service. The board's registers keep the outline of a life. Born 1856, entered the service at 22, married Mary Grierson in 1882, 4 children, Louisa, Robert, Annabella, Arthur. He was recommended for the Flannans by the board's own superintendent, who knew him personally and rated him one of the best keepers in the service. The second assistant, Thomas Marshall, had been a seaman before he was a keeper, 4 years in the service, unmarried. His file carries one instructive scar. In an earlier gale, board equipment had been washed away at a landing, and Marshall was held responsible and fined. The service taught its lessons with a ledger. What the sea took, a keeper answered for. The station's first assistant, William Ross, was ashore that December on sick leave. Standing his watch was Donald MacArthur, an occasional keeper hired locally, a married man with 2 children, and the least documented of the 3, absent even from the registers that recorded the others. One rule of the service matters more than any other to this story. Whenever keepers worked the landings, one man stayed behind with the light. Always. The work itself ran to a clock. Light the lamp at dusk, watch in turns through the night, extinguish at dawn, then curtains over the lens, brass and glass cleaned, oil fountains refilled, and the log written up. Wind, barometer, visibility, sea. A lighthouse is a machine for making the same day repeat, and the Flannan Isles log records exactly that. Gales and routine, a year and a week of it, then the record moves onto a slate, and then it stops. The keeper's log, kept by James Ducat, records gales through the first half of December. The last full entry was written up on the 13th. The 14th and the morning of the 15th were noted in chalk on the slate, waiting to be copied in. Wind, barometer, sea, routine to the last line. At midnight on the 15th, the Arkster passed and saw no light. Her report reached the Northern Lighthouse Board offices on the 18th. Relief was already scheduled. The tender Hesperus would sail from Brestclete on the 20th, carrying stores, mail, and Joseph Mòr, the assistant keeper, rotating back onto the rock. The weather refused. For 6 days, the Hesperus waited out the gales, and nobody on shore knew anything more than that a passing steamer had once failed to see the light. She reached Eilean Mòr at noon on the 26th of December. The island was wrong in small ways first. No flag answered from the flagstaff. No empty boxes stood at the landing for restocking. No figures came down the path. Captain Harvey sounded the whistle, then fired a rocket. Nothing moved. Joseph Mòr went ashore alone. He climbed the steps from the east landing and found the entrance gate closed and the door closed behind it. Inside, the kitchen was clean. Pots scrubbed, utensils put away, which told him, as he wrote 2 days later, that the men had finished their dinner before whatever came next. The kitchen clock had run down and stopped. The fireplace was cold, the beds were empty. Up in the light room, the lamp was cleaned, the oil fountains were filled, and everything stood ready to be lit at dusk. The work of the morning of December the 15th was complete. No work after it anywhere in the tower. Then the oilskins. Ducat's sea boots and waterproof were gone. Marshall's boots and oilskins were gone. Donald MacArthur's coat still hung on its peg. Keepers wore oilskins for one errand only, the landings. And on a December rock in the North Atlantic, no man steps outside in shirt sleeves, not by choice. Captain Harvey's telegram went out that day. A dreadful accident has happened at the Flannans. The 3 keepers, Ducat, Marshall, and the occasional, have disappeared from the island. The stopped clocks, he noted, put the accident about a week back. The light had stood dark over the shipping lane the whole time, with a lamp upstairs cleaned, filled, and waiting for someone to strike a match. Robert Muirhead came out to the island on the 29th of December. He was the board superintendent, and the inspection was personal in a way official files rarely admit. He had known Ducat and Marshall intimately, MacArthur well, and had recommended these men for this station himself. The east landing, where Mòr had come ashore, was in perfect order. Ropes in place, nothing disturbed. The west side had been hit. High above the west landing, a wooden box was kept wedged in a crevice 110 feet over the sea, holding the mooring ropes and crane handles. The box was gone, burst from its place, the contents scattered. Ropes lay about the crane platform, still in their coils. Iron railings were bent over and wrenched out of their concrete. A block of stone weighing more than a ton had been shifted and carried. A life buoy was torn from its fastenings, and turf was stripped back from the cliff edge. All of it on one face of one island, at a height taller than a 10-story building. The sea had done this. The slate held routine readings from the morning of Saturday the 15th, so the men were alive and working that day. The missing oilskins said 2 of them had dressed for the landings. From there, Muirhead assembled the only sequence the evidence allowed. That afternoon, Ducat and Marshall went down to the west landing to secure the box of ropes, the same class of equipment Marshall had once been fined for losing. MacArthur, the man whose coat stayed on the peg, left the station in his shirt sleeves against the rule that the light is never left alone. Perhaps he saw something from above. Perhaps he ran to warn them or to help. The report does not guess. It concludes, an unexpectedly large roller had come up on the island, and a large body of water, going up higher than where they were and coming down upon them, had swept them away with resistless force. The deaths were registered in the parish records at Carloway. Cause, probably drowning. In the board's register of keepers, a clerk wrote one line in red ink against Ducat's name and against Marshall's, disappeared on or about 15th of December 1900. Ducat left his wife Mary and their 4 children. MacArthur left a widow and 2 children. Marshall left a father, a brother, a sister. Muirhead's report closes with what grief looks like in official prose. The board, he wrote, had lost 2 of its most efficient keepers and a competent occasional. The file was complete in under a month. That is where the documented record ends. It is not where the story ends. The newspapers had the story within days, and the story had almost everything. A brand new lighthouse, 3 vanished keepers, an empty island with an uncanny name. What it lacked was bodies, witnesses, and an ending. A story missing those things does not stay still. It gets finished by other people. The first to finish it was a poet. In 1912, Wilfred Wilson Gibson published Flannan Isle, and it supplied the 2 details everyone now remembers. In Gibson's telling, the searchers find a table spread for dinner, meat and cheese and bread, but all untouched, and a chair lying tumbled on the floor as though the men had leapt up mid-meal and fled. Mòr's account, written 2 days after he landed, records the opposite. A clean kitchen, the dinner things put away. It made no difference. The poem went into school anthologies, and for generations of British children, the Flannan Isles arrived at their desks with the meal already on the table. What a poem imagines. Memory files as fact. The pulps went further. In August 1929, a writer named Ernest Flannan published an article in the American magazine True Strange Stories, and in it, for the first time anywhere, appeared quotations from the keeper's log. Ducat irritable, Marshall crying, the men praying as an impossible storm rages, and then a final entry. Storm ended, sea calm, God is over all. It reads like evidence, and that is the trick. An invented document borrows the authority of the real ones. When the historian Mike Dash went through the actual records 9 decades later, he found what the board had always held: routine weather notes ending on a slate, and the entries fail on their own terms. A second assistant does not write his principal's moods into an official board log, any more than a clerk files a complaint about his manager in the company ledger. In 1965, the invented log found its great amplifier. Vincent Gaddis, the American writer who a year earlier had coined the phrase Bermuda Triangle, reprinted the entries as fact in his book, Invisible Horizons. From Gaddis, they flowed into the paranormal paperback boom of the 60s and 70s, from the paperbacks into television, and from television onto the internet, where they still circulate with their quotation marks intact. Each era refashioned the island in its own idiom. Gibson's Edwardian readers, raised on ghost stories, got a haunting, complete with 3 ominous seabirds watching from the rock. The mid-century paperbacks dealt in sea serpents, ghost ships, spies, and abduction. In 1979, the composer Peter Maxwell Davies turned the case into a chamber opera, The Lighthouse, and made it a study of isolation, 3 minds coming apart in a tower. In 2018, the film The Vanishing gave it the shape of a modern thriller, a chest of gold and men killing for it. Madness, murder, monsters. Each version records the fears of the decade that produced it far more faithfully than it records December 1900. And beneath all of it, something older kept humming. This was the island you did not name. The country approached bareheaded and sunwise. 2 centuries of recorded custom had prepared the ground, and the fiction grew in it. So weigh the 3 records. The haunted log was written in 1929. The untouched meal was written in 1912. Nothing in the file from 1900 supports any visitor to that island or any hand in the loss beyond the sea itself. What the file does support is specific and hard. Storm damage 110 feet up, 2 sets of oilskins gone, a coat left on its peg. and an investigator who knew the men concluding within 3 weeks that a great sea took all three at the West Landing. The men who inherited the job read it the same way. Walter Aldebur, who kept the Flannan light in the 1950s, believed one keeper was washed in and 2 died trying to reach him. The keepers never needed the story to be stranger than the sea. What stays open is small and human, and it will not close. Why all three were outside. What MacArthur saw that sent him out coatless into a December gale, breaking the one rule of the job. The 3 men wrote almost nothing of their last day. Wind, barometer, sea, chalk on a slate. Everyone else has been writing it for them ever since. The record keeps the men, the stories keep the island. This channel tells the stories at the edge of the map, where the records run out and people had to make sense of things anyway. If that is the kind of history you want more of, subscribing is the best way to see the next one. Thank you for watching.